Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and in this video I would like to speak with you about the differences between the Rider-Waite-Smith deck and the Tarot de Marseille system. Now, as you can see, those are two different systems, and the Rider-Waite-Smith deck was created by Arthur Edward Waite, and the illustrator of the deck is Pamela Coleman Smith. This deck was published in 1909. Both of Arthur Waite and Pamela Coleman Smith, they were participants in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which is a secret society. Now, Arthur Waite was a scholar, a mystic. He was an author and a poet who wrote about esoteric subjects. Arthur Waite and Aleister Crowley, they both were together in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Now, Aleister Crowley have his own tarot system, which is called the Thought Tarot cards. In this video, I will not be focusing on Aleister Crowley's work. I want to bring to you only the differences between the Rider-Waite-Smith deck and the Tarot de Marseille. I also want to pay your attention that Arthur Waite was a Christian and he was brought up as a Christian. Part of the initiation in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was to create your own personal tarot deck. And this is why Arthur Waite and Aleister Crowley have their own decks. Now, from this, we can understand that this is the point of view, the personal point of view of that specific author. And the illustrations is the personal point of view of Pamela Coleman Smith. They worked together and they created that deck. Now, the main difference that we can observe from the Rider-Waite-Smith deck and the Tarot de Marseille is that the Rider-Waite-Smith deck have scenery in the pip cards. The Tarot de Marseille do not have scenery in the pip cards. And this is what actually made the Rider-Waite-Smith deck the most famous deck in the world. Because it is very easy to follow and it is very easy to read. You already have a structured illustration in the pip cards. Now, Arthur Waite also changed the structure of two tarot cards. The Justice card became number 11 and the Strength card became number 8 because he wanted to associate the tarot cards with astrological meanings, so he put the Leo placement on the Strength card. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Tarot de Marseille. The Tarot de Marseille entered Europe in the late 15th century, and there is a lot of interesting history regarding Tarot de Marseille. You can read this up. I'm not going to choose the information for you. It is said that the tarot deck was invented in northern Italy and introduced into southern France. So this is a very old deck. The origins of playing cards and of tarot cards overall are from the Mamluks. Now, the Tarot de Marseille do not have a specific author, as I already spoke about this in my previous video. There are people who gave interpretation to the cards and meanings, but again, it's all speculation and it's not something that we can take seriously. I mean, every person can actually give interpretation to the cards. And the cards were introduced as plain cards. They did not have any mystical meaning. The mystical meaning came later. But because of the mystical nature of tarot cards and of playing cards overall, we can associate them with esoteric knowledge, and we can look at them and see that they do have some esoteric meaning and mystical meaning. They do have some common sense in them. Now, the Tarot de Marseille do not have scenery in the pip cards, as I already spoke about this. So it's a bit difficult to understand them. But we can actually understand the meaning of the pip cards if we will associate them with numerology and with other aspects. Now, if you're interested to know how I personally associated the Tarot de Marseille, you can download my book, which is called Another Way for Tarot de Marseille. This is a very easy method, easy to read, easy to follow. And after you will read this book, you will understand Tarot de Marseille easily. And the peep cards will not be a threat for you anymore. So you can download my book on Amazon. Now, I want to pay your attention for a very interesting information. Arthur Waite put a lot of Christian motifs to the tarot. We can observe that the Lover's card have Adam and Eve depiction, which in the Tarot de Marseille it have three characters with a Cupid. Cupid is a pagan symbology. It's not Christian symbology. Also, we can see that the Temperance card have Yahweh letters written on it. While in the Tarot de Marseille, the Temperance do not have those words written on this card. The Wheel of Fortune also have the letters Yahweh written on it, while in the Tarot de Marseille, it do not have. So from here we can understand that the Rider-Waite-Smith deck is heavily influenced from the Abrahamic religion system. And he, as an author, as the creator of the deck, was a Christian by himself. So I think you need to pay attention to that information when you're starting your tarot journey. This is very important because this is giving a new dimension to this system. Some people wrote to me that Tarot de Marseille is also heavily influenced by Christianity. Now, for this, I will have to tell you that yes, Tarot de Marseille entered Europe in a time when Christianity was very dominant and people were influenced heavily by the church and by Christians. But Tarot de Marseille is very mysterious because it have a card that represents a papess. There is no historical figure that was a papess. This is a fiction. There is a mythological character that called the Joan the Pope, which is a female pope, but it's a mythology. It's just a story. It is not in history. So I do believe that people at that time tried maybe to hide the pagan symbology of the cards. Because we have to understand that mysticism overall is coming from the pagan world, is coming from the ancient world. And of course, at that time, Christianity was very dominant. So they had to mask the true meaning of the cards. Now, in the Tarot de Marseille, we can observe some Christian motifs in the Pope card, in the Devil card, because the Devil is a Christian personage, is not something that is from the pagan world. But if we will look at the pagan world, the term of the devil can become as the chaos god, as Typhoon, someone that Zeus was fighting. Chaos represented by Typhoon. Chaos was something that is opposite to order. Now we also can see maybe a Christian motif in the Judgment card, but again, it's very speculative because still the Rider-Waite-Smith deck have more Christian motifs in the Judgment card than the Tarot de Marseille. The Judgment card can symbolize maybe a messenger of God, or you need to pay attention to higher force that is trying to awake you. It does not necessarily have to mean judgment in a Christian way. So other than that, there is no really Christian motifs in the Tarot de Marseille. And the hint for that is, of course, the Papesse card, because there is no historical figure that is a woman pope. There were no such a thing. It was forbidden. And also we need to understand that overall divination and everything that has to do with occultism, mysticism is forbidden in the Abrahamic religions. I also want to pay your attention to a very interesting tarot, which is called Tarot de Besancon. In that tarot, we have the Papess and Pope in a different way. They represented as Roman gods. The Papess represented as Juno, and the Pope represented as Jupiter. So this is very interesting. We can see the remains or the association to some pagan symbology. Those are pagan gods. I also want to pay your attention to a manuscript from the early 15th century written by Martiano de Tortona. He was a secretary to the Milanese Duke Filippo Maria Visconti, and it describes a deck with 60 cards, 44 featuring images of birds, and 16 cards adorned with portraits of Roman gods: Jupiter, Apollo, Mercury, Hercules, Juno, Neptune, Mars, Aelus, Pallas, Diana, Vesta, Daphne, Venus, Bacchus, Ceres, and Cupid. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Tarot cards are working through elements, through numerology, through the elements of the earth and through the forces of the earth. In my opinion, the pagan gods represent elements of the earth and forces of our existence, and we can understand the cards through the mythology of ancient gods. Again, this is my own opinion. I know that I deviated a little bit from the topic, but I really wanted to pay your attention that the Tarot de Marseille is different than the Rider-Waite-Smith deck through the pip cards and through the mystical understanding. Now, because Tarot de Marseille do not have any particular author and there is no dogmatic rules like in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, you can have your own interpretation. It will be easier for you to understand the cards. I find the Rider-Waite-Smith deck to be a very strict dogmatic system that is not giving you any place for further interpretations. Now, in this video, I'm not trying to tell you that Tarot de Marseille is better than Rider-Waite-Smith deck. I want to pay your attention that those are two different systems. They are workable and everyone have its own personal preference. I don't like when people are writing to me nasty things. I'm not trying to impose my opinion. If you like the Rider-Waite-Smith deck and if you are really connected to the Christian symbology in this deck, this is good for you and it's working for you, and continue your work and research and work with this deck. This is amazing. But if you want something else, if you're interested in the Tarot de Marseille, so you can research about the Tarot de Marseille. There is no thing that is better than the other. In my personal opinion, I find that the Tarot de Marseille can be more connected with paganism than the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And this is to my liking because I consider myself a person who do like the pagan tradition. Another major thing that I wanted to pay your attention to is that in the Tarot de Marseille, there is no association with Kabbalah. There is no association to astrological zodiac signs or astrological meanings. There is no such a thing, which is a major difference from the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. The Rider-Waite-Smith deck is filled with astrological associations, is filled with Abrahamic religions symbology, with Christian symbology, and also it have Kabbalistic association. This make this deck a pile of soup and a mixture of traditions, which is a bit difficult to connect to. Especially if you're a pagan, especially if you're a person who is opposing to Abrahamic religions, you will find the Rider-Waite-Smith deck to be very difficult to work with. And this is something that is very important to understand. I know it's very trendy today to mix traditions, to mix everything, to take some subjects from here, some knowledge from there, and mix everything. But you have to understand that paganism was an enemy of Abrahamic religions. And I know that the tarot cards do have, even the Tarot de Marseille, they do have some Christian symbology in them because that was the time and the fashion of that era. But still, if you're a pagan, I think it is better for you to work with the Tarot de Marseille than with the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. I do believe that a system should be functional. I do not believe in the mixed approach because we have to also understand that the Golden Dawn secret society, I understand that mysticism flourished at that era. People at that time, people were interested in that, and archaeology started to flourish as well. But still, they had a lot of lack in ancient history. They did not have archaeological evidence like we have today. So they had a lot of fantasies. And they also, were Christians that were very interested in Kabbalah as well, because Kabbalah was something mystical. So they mixed everything together. And all of that secret society mixture is, it's workable, it is powerful, but it can be not workable for people who want to maybe preserve or to work only with the ancient pagan tradition. So this is also my point in this video. You need to understand the differences in a sober way. Anyways, thank you for watching. Follow me on Instagram on Esoteric Rain. I changed the name of my Instagram account from Magical Key 666 to Esoteric Rain. And see you in my next videos.